Dragon's Dogma 2, Rise of the Ronin. Dragon's Dogma 2, Rise of the Ronin. Two massive open world AAA games with very alliterative titles releasing on the exact same day, March 22nd.
A date which will live in infamy.
I mean, seriously, come on. They couldn't have staggered these out just a little bit? But that means for most of us PS5 owners, we have a decision to make. Are we going to be spending our time sword fighting our way through feudal Japan with Rise of the Ronin? Or are we going to be setting out an epic fantasy quest with Dragon's Dogma 2? So let's break down everything we know about these games so far so that when the time comes, you can make the best decision possible. Oh, and be sure to let me know in the comments below which one you're going to choose. But let's start by talking about the heart and soul of every open world game, the open world. Now, both of these games do tout massive open worlds, and from everything we've seen so far, both do look pretty immersive and pretty awesome. They both seem to have pretty large maps to explore with different settlements to visit and a lot of side content to play through and things to discover along the way. I think the main difference between these two in terms of the open world is really going to be more about the atmospheres and landscapes within the worlds themselves. Rise of the Ronin, set in 1800s Japan, is going to be a lot more grounded in reality, taking place during a real historically significant time in Japanese history, and with real historical figures making cameos, similar to something that we would expect from like an Assassin's Creed. Which, I'm not going to say I learned most of everything I know about world history from Assassin's Creed, but I'm also not going to say that. And while it does seem like there will be some fantastical elements to it, it's not going to be anything like what we'd expect from previous Team Ninja games like Nioh and Nioh 2. The overall vibe to me feels a lot more like Ghost of Tsushima, where you can travel through the countryside on horseback, and even with this cool glider called the Avicula, which is pretty reminiscent to the glider from Breath of the Wild or even Horizon Forbidden West. And there's a cool grapple mechanic which seems straight out of Sekiro. But just in terms of overall tone and traversal, everything seems a lot more grounded in reality. Dragon's Dogma 2, on the other hand, is a complete fantasy land and includes everything you would expect to see in a fantasy world. There's dragons and magic and trolls and all sorts of mythical creatures all living and coexisting together. And from everything we've seen so far on Dragon's Dogma 2, which is a lot, they have not been shy at all about putting out content pre-release and really getting the hype machine going for this game, and I would say in a lot of ways it's really worked. The world itself looks a lot more like something you would expect to see in like an Elden Ring style open world game, where you never really know what's going to be around the next corner, and there's always some sort of cave to explore or dungeon to find or new side quest to unlock. There's just always something going on. And according to Capcom's website, this world also takes full advantage of immersive physics and character AI, which I'm really excited to see. Again, from some of the sneak peeks that we've seen already, we're fighting these really massive trolls and giants and dragons. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they incorporate some of the physics into those big battles and those big boss encounters. I'm also just really curious to see how full both of these worlds really are. With Rise of the Ronin, they have said that they wanted to do more than just create an open world. They wanted it to be, full of life and full of things to do and things to explore. And I think it'll just be really interesting to see how well that all comes together, because we've never really seen an open world type game like this from Team Ninja before. So did they hit a home run right out of the gate, or is this maybe a precursor to something that's going to be bigger on down the road? We'll just have to wait and see. Now, in terms of combat and combat depth, this is another area where I think both of these games are going to have pretty different experiences, and this is probably the one where it comes mostly down to your particular preference and playstyle for what type of game you like to play. I think there are a lot more questions at this point as to what type of combat experience we're going to be getting in Rise of the Ronin. Is it going to be more of that Nioh 1, Nioh 2 style Souls-like combat game that focuses really heavily on that precision sword play, something even like a Sekiro where it's all about blocking and parrying at just the right times? Or is it going to be something a little bit more like Ghost of Tsushima, which still kind of had that emphasis on blocking and parrying and breaking a stance and posture, but I think it was a little bit more approachable, a little bit easier to kind of get the hang of it than you would typically see in a Souls-like game. Of course, there is just that much higher learning curve with the Souls-like formula of games, which can be a real turnoff for a lot of people. And I think, in general, there's just a lot of Souls-like fatigue, and those games really can become of a grind. Now, personally, for me, I love that. Sekiro is probably my all-time favorite game. Lies of P was probably my favorite game of last year. I really like that style of game, but I totally understand that it's not for everyone. And Ghost of Tsushima, I think, was a lot more approachable, and for that reason, it kind of brought a lot more people in. Now, if I had to guess at this point, I would probably say we're going to get a combination of the two. I don't think they're going to go all in on that Nioh 2 difficulty level, because that game was really hard for a lot of people, myself included. So I'm interested to see just kind of how both of those worlds come together. And with Rise of the Ronin 2, I know we'll be getting different types of weapons and swords and spears and bows, and you'll have the ability to kind of customize your loadout, but I don't think we really know at this stage just how that'll affect, your different playstyles and builds. And will you be able to put together different builds based on the different types of weapons in your loadout? Or is it going to be largely the same kind of combat, just with different weapons to kind of switch it up and keep things fresh? With Dragon's Dogma 2, on the other hand, there is a lot going on with this combat from the looks of everything that we've seen already. From the start, you'll be able to choose your different character classes known as vocations, and these will essentially choose the type of combat you'll specialize in, whether that be a fighter or an archer or a mage, or some sort of various combination of any number of those. From the combat we've seen so far, this definitely looks a lot more Elden Ring-ish, and it looks really in depth, which was one of the best things about Elden Ring, and just how rich each of the different classes really felt, which really lends itself to multiple different playthroughs. I know I played through it multiple different times and wanting to get kind of a full experience from each of the different types of play. And from what we've heard, you'll also be able to respec your character at different points in the game, which is great because then you don't have to go all the way through the game to play a different style on New Game Plus, or wait until the end game when you've kind of already figured out, what style best fits you going into that stage of the game. You'll get to experiment with a lot of different ways to play the game and then kind of choose the one that best fits your playstyle. Which also brings us to just the general character customization, which I think is going to be another major difference between these two games. Now with Rise of the Ronin, it does seem like you'll have the ability to kind of change the different aspects of your physical appearance, whether that be your hair color or your body type or your skin tone. And also during the game, there's going to be different outfits that you can have to really add your own touch to your character and personalize it. It seems like there also is going to be two different characters, a male and a female, that we'll be able to either pick from the beginning or at least swap through interchangeably during the game, so we'll get to kind of make the character our own. But this is another area where it seems like there's still a lot that remains to be seen, especially in terms of the clothing type. Are those just going to be fashion, where you can just kind of customize the look of your character like in Ghost of Tsushima or Spider-Man 2? Or do those different outfits give us different skills or access to different abilities, something like Horizon Forbidden West or even Spider-Man 1? Dragon's Dogma 2, on the other hand, is taking the character customization and they are going all in. They're dialing it up to 11, and it really seems to be one of the major focal points of the game. Not only will you be choosing your vocation and customizing your specific playstyle and skills, but it seems to have a pretty robust character builders. It even seems like you'll be able to choose from different non-human character elements, which does look to be pretty cool and just gives you a lot of flexibility. So if you're someone that really likes to get lost in the character customization and the character building, especially right at the beginning of the game, I think you're going to have a ton to look forward to here. Another thing that's going to differentiate these games is just the ability for choice and how to make choices and what choices kind of ultimately affect the story. Both seem to have a lot going on in terms of different choices that you can make, not just in the ability to choose your skills or customize your character, but in the decisions you make that ultimately affect the story and the end game. One thing that looks interesting about Rise of the Ronin is this bonding system, where apparently you'll have the ability to bond with different side characters that can give you access to different skills or different weapons throughout the game. And apparently you can also bond with different settlements, which I think that remains to be seen how that system plays out. Is it going to give you access to discounts from local merchants, or is there going to be access to different things within the settlement? Maybe even a certain level of protection based on, if it's your home base or if there's people after you at different points in the story. It'll just be interesting. I don't think we really know, again, a whole lot about that system at this point. So it'll be interesting to see just how in-depth they go with it and what the rewards really are. Also throughout the game, it seems like you'll be able to make choices as far as who lives and who dies, or you'll have the ability to take out different characters, and those choices will ultimately affect the story. So it seems like there's a lot there as far as different choices and how those different outcomes can lead to different results at the end. Now with Dragon's Dogma 2, of course there's going to be a lot of choice kind of incorporated into the game and the particular playstyle and the build you put together and sort of the character you develop, as well as even the different AI companions that you have along the way. But I think it still remains to be seen whether or not we'll be able to make different choices within the game, or choose different paths or choose different sides, and if decisions we make throughout the game ultimately affect the end. In terms of just overall difficulty, I think both of these games are going to be pretty challenging, and if you're someone that likes a challenge, I don't think you're going to be disappointed in either of these options. But the good news is, I think they're also going to have a lot of ways to tamper down the difficulty if you want a more story-like experience and an opportunity to just generally enjoy the game, at least on their first playthrough, without it becoming a grind. Now we already know that Rise of the Ronin is going to have 3 difficulty levels, easy, medium, hard, or dawn, dusk, twilight. And according to the website, you'll be able to switch in and out of these whenever you want. So if at any point you're stuck, or you're stuck at a particular boss, or you can't get past a certain part in the game, you'll be able to turn the difficulty level down, get past that part, and then you can crank it back up and then just continue on with the story. With Dragon's Dogma 2, I don't think the difficulty level itself is going to change per se. You're not going to be able to go to easy or medium or hard, but I think there's going to be different paths and things that you can do where you'll have the ability to leave an area and come back later when you've gotten additional skills or maybe gotten stronger or leveled up your character a little bit more. You'll also have AI companions that help you along the way called pawns, and you'll have the ability to level up their skills. So I can see that being utilized quite a bit if you're in a particular boss encounter that's a little bit more challenging, kind of maybe similar to what we got from Lies of P, where you had different specters that could kind of help you along the way, or even the different summons that we did see in Elden Ring. So again, the difficulty level not changing per se, but different paths and things that you can do within the game where you can always come back to a more challenging experience where you've leveled up your skills a little bit more. So which game are you going to be playing on March 22nd? Be sure to let me know in the comments. And regardless of which game you choose, be sure to subscribe to my channel because I will no doubt be playing both games a ton, and we'll have a lot more content in the near future for both games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.